This is a continuation of some of the thoughts that we've had in regard to the woman that is not wisdom. And so we're going to try to understand a little bit more of what it is that we should be understanding in regard to this woman, because the father figure in this story, in this letter, this series of Proverbs, in these illustrations and education to his son, we are to accept this as our education, something that we're to receive not only from Solomon, but from God the Father through his son to Solomon, who was a father to his son, which of course we would want to give to our sons and daughters as well. So I'm sharing now, and we're going to be seeing that Proverbs chapter 6, verse 1 says, "My son, if you be a surety for your friend, if you have stricken your hand with a stranger, you are snared." It's like, wait a minute, what? If you are a surety for your friend, then you're snared? What is this? Let's look. Surety, Arab or Arab. It's actually, see this highlight right there? That actually gives you the clue that that's the accent. So it'd be Arab instead of Arab, like Arab. It's not the accent here, it's the accent here. So Arab. Now, it's to braid. So you know what braiding is, right? To intermix, technically to traffic, as if by bartering. So you've been trafficked. You're intermixed with a friend. You have been given as a security, a kind of exchange. You're engaged, you're intermeddled, you're intermingling, you're mingling with, you've mortgaged yourself, you've been given as a pledge, you are a surety, or you've undertaken something. You are in a snare. It's like, wait, what? I don't understand. So what we're going to do then is we're going to try to understand a little bit more about this word surety. I'm going to search for this key number to try to find out. There are 22 different references. I can show you that by going right there into this corner here. And you'll see that I will be a surety for him. Well, what does that mean? Of my hand shalt thou require him. If I bring him not unto thee and set him before thee, then let me bear the blame forever. This is one brother talking about his other brother. Like, listen, I'm going to be a surety for my brother. This is Joseph that's being talked about. And my hand shall be required of him. Basically, this is talking about Joseph here. And what it's saying is, if he doesn't come safely to you, then my life, my experience is required. So if anything goes bad with him, I'm responsible. So that's the word surety here, the very first time it's used. And you're thinking, oh, wow, like if you are a surety for your friend, you've been snared. What is this talking about? What's going on? Let's continue to learn. My son, if you are a surety for your friend, if you have stricken your hand with a stranger. So it's a friend and or a stranger, because a stranger is not a friend. So you have a friend and a stranger. This is two scenarios. Either with a friend or with a stranger, you are snared with the words of your mouth. You are taken with the words of your mouth. So not only are you snared, you're taken. So this is pretty strong language here. There's a comment that came in, and it says here, a guarantee, a cosigner with a stranger is implied in the proverb, right? So like, okay, let's break it down for something in English, or somehow in English. So in regard to what's happening here is, it would be like me with one of my children. Okay, at this time, my son is 21, my daughter is 18. And my daughter hasn't purchased her own car yet, though she's interested. She wants to. And so if, in fact, she says, Dad, I've got $100, but the car is like $8,000, would you be willing to be a cosigner for me? I'd be like, okay, wait a minute. What that means is, if she puts down $100 and she starts paying with a loan on that $8,000, then if she misses a payment, I'm responsible for the next payment. If she cashes out and says, I can't pay, sorry, then I'm the guy stuck with the bill of $7,900. And so if I have made an agreement, if I've with my mouth or even written in some kind of legal document like a loan, If I've co-signed for somebody, then I am stricken, I am taken, according to Solomon. And so that sounds pretty tough, right? Like, oh man, I don't know if I should do that. Well, according to the Bible, you probably shouldn't, with a friend or a stranger. And so there have been times I've done that, and there have been times where I've been bitten. And not every time, of course, the Lord allows us to be ignorant in some cases, but it just seems like to me that the Bible is saying stay away from this kind of stuff. So if you've been taken or stricken as a surety with a friend or a stranger, then by the words of your mouth you're snared and taken. So this is a big deal. Do this now, my son. Deliver yourself when you are come into the hand of your friend. Go, humble yourself, and make sure of your friend. So why would you make sure of your friend? Well, because in a case where you are surety and you end up being the one carrying that very big stick that you weren't expecting to carry, you just thought like, okay, I'm going to help my friend out, but it probably won't be a big deal. What if it does become a big deal? Well, then what happens? You've lost your friend. And so here it's saying, go humble yourself and make sure of your friend, because it's likely that you're going to lose your friend over a deal like this, right? I mean, okay, my sister with a relative of hers made a business agreement. And to my understanding, it didn't turn out well, because the one she made the business agreement with ended up saying, oh, well, this is your thing. You take it. And to my understanding, my sister was, she ended up with a lot of debt as a result. Not a good thing. Well, I'm sure there was a surety, co-joining, co-signing, etc. that went on that didn't work out very well. So, unfortunately, that happened to my sister with a relative. Shouldn't happen, but it did. And so, humble yourself and make sure of your friend. Give not sleep to your eyes. Don't even sleep if this happens, nor slumber to your eyelids. Deliver yourself as a roe from the hand of the hunter, and as a bird from the hand of the fowler. Now, what would it be? A roe from the hand of the hunter. Deliver yourself. You know what that means? Run away as quickly as you can. You've probably seen those deer, right? The deer come into your sights, and as soon as they do, the first thing they do is they lift up their head and they put their ears up towards you. And if there's something that sounds to the right or to the left, then their ear will turn and they'll hear it. They'll listen, and their eyes are big. So if you're a roe and you know there's danger, what are you going to do? Well, the very next thing they do, if they see you move or they see you coming closer, sometimes if you're coming directly closer, they can't really tell that you're getting taller, so they can't see you very well. If you move to the left or to the right, they'll see you immediately and they'll take off running. And if you haven't seen a deer run close up, it's pretty powerful. They're really fast and they can jump very far, right? So if you're like that, or a bird that's going to be taken in a snare, what does a bird do? A bird will jump as quickly as possible and start flapping their wings, and they'll be flying within an instant. I mean, they can do that so quickly. So basically what Solomon is saying here is, if you have been taken in a snare, or you have been caught in this idea of being a surety for someone, if you're in debt in a certain situation, if you've come to the point where you've made an agreement, but then you realize like, wow, I shouldn't have done that, then go humble yourself and make yourself right with your friend. Because, tomorrow it could be that your friend is like, you know what? They're going to take care of it. They've got more money than I do. See ya, I'm out. And you now are stuck with this and you won't have a friend, right? So good counsel. And so I think it would be best for us to take the advice of Solomon and do exactly what he says. Now, Vern, you are raising your hand. What would you like to say?
The loss is the fact that generally in a surety, the asset doesn't become yours. So you not only pay your friend's debt, he keeps the thing that you signed for. So if you sign for a car or a house or whatever, you end up paying the debt, but the legal asset still remains his possession. You have no access to it. And so, if you're going to be a surety for someone, you want to make sure the asset becomes yours.
Right. That's really...
That way you can liquidate it and cover your debt. But if you sign for his house, you can't force him to sell the house. In fact, you just stop the bank from making him sell the house.
Right.
It becomes very twisted And Ellen White, if anybody's interested in that subject, I am, and I've studied quite a bit because it's, in part how I make my living. But Ellen White's very firm about it. She warns us from a number of angles. Do not sign for anyone, because you also, by signing for them, are aligning yourself with their character. Be sure you know who they are, because the problem in a surety is you don't know the third party. You don't know what they're going to act. You might think your friend's great and gracious and so far, but the minute you co-sign, it's out of his hands. He doesn't get to apply grace to you. The third party you're signing with is who you're dealing with, and you may not want to deal with them.
Yeah, thank you. That's good clarity on that. And it reminds me of a time where it wasn't that long ago, a friend of mine from the One True God Fellowship, Sabbath keeper, keeping the law of God, said, "Hey, I need to borrow some money. Can I do that?" I thought it was strange, because I would think that this person ought to have the money that they were looking for. It wasn't that much, so I thought, sure, no problem. And so 2 weeks went by. I said, "Hey, you were wanting to borrow that money. How long do you need?" "Oh, a good long time." I was like, "Okay, no problem. Let me know." So, a month later, I said, "Hey, I was just wondering about that money." And it wasn't because I needed the money. It was because they said they would pay it back, right? That's why I was going toward this conversation. That's where I was coming from. And it took a lot of arm wrestling, not because I needed the money, but just on the basis of principle. I was like, "You're going to give me that money back." And they did. And it was, the potential of being a separation between friends. And so we should be very careful with how we interact with those. Anyways, God bless you all, and thank you for coming.